Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering unboxing video. Today I'm going to be looking at one of the Dark Ascension Event Decks because I haven't really got around to unboxing one of these. There's two of these. There's a black green one, which is the one I'm going to unbox here, and this one is the Spiraling Doom one. There's another red deck, and that's the one that seems to be flying off the shelves at the moment down at my local store. But I find this one's, I wanted to take a look at mainly because I'm really interested in how the Birthing Pod and Undying work in this deck, work together. So let's have a look at this deck, and I'm probably going to shoot two videos for this. I'm going to do like just a normal unboxing, just for the benefit of those people that maybe haven't seen event decks before, so you can see what you get in one. And then following on from that, a bit later I'm going to do like an analysis and just look at how the deck sort of slots together and some possible ideas for changes and how you go about, finding out how to change decks like this. Okay, so you get this sort of nice flip open box with this here, so it sort of seals down nicely. Inside of here you get a spin down counter, so there's your spin down counter. I'm trying to find the logo on this, very elusive. Normally the number 20 has the set logo on it. Oh, there we go. So there's the Dark Ascension symbol. Now, one of the reasons why these are popular is they're sort of ready to go, hence the term event decks. Now, obviously, there is some issue about the power of these against a properly sort of put together constructed deck, but nonetheless the components are here to basically play at, say, FNM or even a tournament, but it's debatable as how well a deck like this would do without major changes. But anyway, it's a good way of just getting into playing at the sort of next level. So there's one of the inserts, which is basically the how to play guide, and then also with all of these event decks you get a deck specific insert which sort of describes how to play the deck, which is obviously really useful if you're new to Magic. So we're going to have a look at the main deck first, see what's in here. You'll notice there's a lot of one-offs, and that's to do with the mechanism interaction with Birthing Pod. With the Birthing Pod side of things, essentially what's happening is you're using creatures, you're sacrificing them to get out slightly more costlier creatures into the game. So first up we have Hex Parasite. So this can be used to remove counters from a target permanent. Interesting card because of course you can use this against, say, Planeswalkers, because when a Planeswalker's loyalty counters go down to 0, they go into the graveyard. But you can also use it on an Undying creature that actually has tokens on it, so when it dies next time round, it can come back again, so you get this sort of perpetual Undying. And we have Young Wolf in the deck, and there's 4 copies of these. So that's one of your Undying creatures. And again, anybody that's not familiar with the Undying mechanism, when a creature dies, if it has no +1/+1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So the presence of the +1/+1 counter effectively stops it from undying a second time, unless you have a mechanism which to remove that counter, and of course the card we looked at a moment ago would do that. And we got Perilous Mirror. That's a one-of. We've got some Viridian Emissaries in here, which is very good at ramping for a land basically. So this will search out for a basic land card and put it into play tapped when it dies, when it's put into the graveyard. So because of that, there are 4 of those in there. We've got some Strangleroot Geists in here. This is another creature with Undying. 2/1 for 2, green. Again, same thing applies. This has haste on it as well. So it comes into play. You can use it straight away. It doesn't suffer from summoning sickness. Phyrexian Rager. So that has an Enter the Battlefield ability. And you'll notice with these one-ofs, they all have Enter the Battlefield abilities. Or a lot of them do. And obviously that's where the interaction with the birthing pod comes down to, because these are obviously brought into play, and as they come into play, their ability triggers. Their Enter the Battlefield ability triggers. So which card you choose to hunt down with the birthing pod is going to be dependent on what sort of threats you're trying to deal with. So we have a Wake Dancer as well. That's got Morbid on it. There's another, ability that interacts really interestingly with the birthing pod, because the birthing pods had to kill something in order to get out another creature, and Morbid is based on the this thing where if something has died that turn, then it triggers a Morbid ability. Another creature with Infect there, Viridian Corruptor. You've got Solemn Simulacrum. Enters the battlefield ability again. Looks for a basic land card. Puts it into play at tap. When it dies, you can draw a card. So you've got both ends. You've got a, enters the graveyard effectively, and then enters the battlefield ability. So real interesting interactions with that birthing pod. And you've got some skin renders here. So that has an Enter the Battlefield ability. To start with, it's a 3/3 for 2 and 2 black, but when it enters the battlefield, you can put 3/1/1 counters on a target creature. 3/1 -1 counters on a target creature. Stinger Fling Spider. Another one with an Enters the Battlefield ability on it. Destroys a target creature with flying. Got a Bloodgift Demon in here, which is a rare. 3 and 2 black for a 5/4 with flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, target player draws a card and loses 1 life. So you can play it on yourself, obviously for card advantage, although you've got to be prepared to use life as a resource. And that's something else you'll come across in this deck, is that really playing this deck, certain cards in here, you have to be prepared to treat life as a resource. Morkrat Banshee, another creature with Morbid on it, so well suited to this sort of approach with the birthing pod. It's 3 and 2 black for a 4/4. So that's with that Morbid ability. When it enters the battlefield, if a creature's died, a target creature gets -4/-4. We've got an Acidic Slime in here. It says Death Touch. Enters the battlefield, and it can be used to destroy a target artifact, enchantment, or land. Brutalizer Exarch, and that has a choice on the ability. So another enters the battlefield ability. You can either search your library for a creature card, reveal it and shuffle it, and then shuffle your library, and put the card on top of the library, or you can put a target non-creature permanent on the bottom of its owner's library. Mere Battlesphere, another enters the battlefield ability on this. This is a rare. It's 4/7 for 7 colourless, and it's got also an attack ability. So you can, if you attack with it, you may tap an X untapped Mere you control. If you do, Mere Battlesphere gets +X/+0 until end of turn. And you can see with that meshes nicely with its first ability, which enters the battlefield, and you have 4 1/1 colourless Mere artifact creature tokens that are put into the battlefield, so they interact with the actual Mere Battlesphere. You've got a Mortar Pod, very interesting artifact equipment in this deck. Living weapon, so it comes in attached to a germ token. You can then equip it on a creature for 2, so it costs 2 to come into play, 2 to equip. But what's really interesting with an equipment is if the creature dies, the equipment stays on the battlefield to be re-equipped. So the only way equipment leaves the battlefield is if it's been specifically targeted by artifact removal. So you can see in this sort of deck where you're killing creatures, intentionally, it's really handy to be able to have that immortal pod just stay on the battlefield ready to be re-equipped. Then we've got Doomblade. So there's 3 of these, I believe. So that's how you're going to deal with various threats without having to resort to firing off your birthing pod to bring stuff into play. So this will destroy a target non-black creature. And here's the birthing pod itself. So it's 3 and 1 Phyrexian mana. And the Phyrexian mana can be played with either forest either with green mana or 2 life. For 1 and a green, you sacrifice a creature, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature converted mana cost, put the card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Activate this ability only any time you could cast a sorcery. So the important thing with this ability is that it's 1 and a green Phyrexian mana, so again you could use 2 life. So early on in the game you could use your life as a resource here rather than wait until you've got enough mana out to be able to sort of hard cast this and hard activate its ability. But it does tap, so you can't sort of redo that ability until it's tapped. And the other thing is it is sorcery speed. So you can't, it can't be triggered, say, in response to something that happens during combat phase, and you can't play it on your opponent's turn because again it's a sorcery. So effectively what this is like a creature ramp through mana, through cost, and there's 2 of those. You've also got conventional tutoring through the use of Diabolic Tutor. So you search your library for a card and then put that card into your hand and shuffle your library. So that's 2 and 2 black, and there's actually 2 of those. And then we move on to the mana base. We've got a little bit of mana fixing here with Evolving Wilds because we're playing green-black here. So you can sack this, go out, search for a basic land card and put it into the battlefield tapped. So not the fastest form of mana fixing, but it does fix for mana nonetheless. Got Grim Backwoods. You tap this, add 1 to your mana pool, but for 2 black and a green you can tap it, sacrifice a creature and use it to gain card advantage. Well, and not so much card advantage but card draw, because effectively you've lost 1 card through sacrificing a creature. Then we move on to the actual basic land base. So we got some swamps here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 swamps, and the rest are all forests. I think I count 14 there. So that's the basic deck. Then we move on to the sideboard. So you get a sideboard with this. And obviously what this allows you to do is after your first game of a match, you can then use these to modify your deck. And there's a few one-offs in here, so you can use it, obviously those cards in combination with the birthing pod, to basically make the deck better fit whatever deck you're playing against. So we have a Despise here. So this is a good card for basically getting your opponent to discard any planeswalkers they might have in their hand. And you got Autumn's Veil, and there's actually 3 I think of these. This is interesting because what it's saying is spells you control can't be countered by blue or black spells this turn, and creatures you control can't be the targets of blue or black spells this turn. So very useful against sort of blue or black control if you're playing against that, so you can substitute that in, because that's one thing that this deck in its raw form could be obviously weak against. Mir Sire, so this is another Mir. So when it goes into the graveyard from the battlefield, you put a 1/1 colourless Mir artifact creature token onto the battlefield. So that's going to work with your Mir Battlesphere. You got some distress here. I think there's actually 4 of these in the deck, yeah. So with these, again, you're getting your opponent to reveal their hand, and you choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. So pretty flexible discarding, and that's 2 black. We've got another Wake Dancer, which you saw in the main deck. We've also got a Beast Within. So this will destroy target permanent. Its controller puts a 3/3 green beast creature token onto the battlefield. So you can use it to sacrifice one of your own creatures to bring in a 3/3 green beast creature. You can also use it against a really serious permanent threat that your opponent may have, and just poke up with the fact that it's going to give them a 3/3 green beast creature token. So it's a sort of trade-off really if you're going to use it like that. You've got Dismember, so that's going to get rid of any sort of target creature that's as big as a 5/5. Or sorry, anything that has as big as 5 toughness. Yeah, because it gives it -5/-5 until end of turn. You've got Gravedigger, so you know this is going to get stuff back from your graveyard if you need to do that. You've got Entomber Exarch, and you can use this to return a target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, so more sort of graveyard bounce. Or you can target your opponent to reveal his or her hand, and you can choose a non-creature card from it. So it's sort of discard against your opponent. And then Acid Web Spider, which has reach, and when it comes into play it destroys target equipment. That's 3 and 2 green for the 3/5. So that's your sideboard. So anyway, that's the basic deck. So what I'm really going to do in the next video is just lay this deck out and just show you how the various cards interact. Anyway, thanks for watching.